Welcome everyone to a casual, lazy, lethargic Sunday morning edition of the Poproast podcast. I'm not going to lie to you, there's not even any coffee in this. I finished it during our pre-meeting here, but I just wanted to set the mood. All right, so it's a little bit behind the curtain there, and how we, create this wonderful vibe for everyone to enjoy. You could probably tell. Yeah, you could probably tell by my voice and my demeanor that it's been a long weekend, everyone. What can we say? It's been hectic. We've had some stuff going on, personal lives and podcast related stuff, which you'll learn more about as we get through this episode. How are you feeling this morning, George?
Tired.
Yeah.
Tired. Cranky.
Good stuff. Tired and cranky. Woo, watch out, everyone. Don't leave any horrible comments in the comments section. In fact, or do, yeah, because horrible comments would be better than no comments at this point. Last I checked, if you're wondering, we have a staggering total of 1 comment across our 5 or 6 videos. I might have to check again afterwards just to give that disappointment a little bit of a boost there. Because it's been rough goings on this podcast. Okay. It's been a slow uphill journey to bring you the best that we can bring you, which will get better every week. I'll tell you who's not getting better. What's that?
I was going to say, shout out Becky for the comment.
Yeah, shout out if you're watching. If you stayed on this long, then I guess you're married to the podcast at this point. You can have our GoPro in the divorce because we don't want it. We'll cover it anyway. I've lost my segue now. You know who's not doing good. You know who's cranky. You would get right on with this bloke, George. That's Alan Moore, who's the crankiest of the cranky. So. And I was thinking about this. Sorry, I want to get maybe a little segment, not every week, but we covered the Neil Blomkamp, or should we say the Neil Blomkrank? There you go. Interview a couple of weeks ago. That man was pretty cranky. This man's pretty cranky, and I like cranky celebrities. I love it when they just rip away the glossy sheen of professionalism and they don't really care anymore and they just lay it all out how they really think. And anyone who knows Alan Moore, you probably know just how cranky this man can get. So we got another interview with him today, or this week, should I say. This interview was with the Telegraph, I'm assuming the Daily Telegraph or the Sunday Telegraph, all the same Telegraph. Probably Alan Moore's favourite newspaper, despite how this interview went. So he was asked, and this is just one clip of the interview. If you want to read the whole interview, go fucking look at it. So he was asked if he splits his royalty money with his other, creative collaborators on, his various projects over the years. And like I say, if you know Alan Moore, he doesn't really give a damn about, any of his old stuff. I mean, not that he doesn't give a damn, but he just doesn't associate with it anymore. Doesn't have his name on any of it. So I'm guessing that's why they've asked if he splits his royalty money, because if he even gets royalty money. So Alan Moore, in a rare spark of altruism, said that he actually donates all of his royalty money to the Black Lives Matter movement, which is great. Absolutely love that. And he probably should have stopped talking there, I reckon, because that's a nice little soundbite that would have done good for his image that he doesn't care about. But then he goes on to say, I no longer wish it to even be shared with them. I don't really feel, with the recent films, that they have stood by what I assumed were their original principles. So I asked for DC Comics to send all of the money from any future TV series or films to Black Lives Matter. So he's given away not only his royalties, but he's given away royalties on behalf of all the legendary artists that he's worked with over the years. Do you know what I mean? You think he's out of line here, George? Is he reached new levels of crank, or is he being fair?
I'd need confirmation on that, because you know what he's like. I don't even know if that would be true. He likes to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He could be saying this and
But
be doing something else for sure.
if it is, then fair enough. Fair play to him. I mean, yeah, he doesn't. He's a fucking wizard. He's not.
He is a wizard. He could very well be donating his money to, the School of Witchcraft and Wizardry or whatever, Warlock Academy or some other.
I don't know. I didn't get to check this interview out. I meant to ask exactly what interview you were referring to, because the only recent one that I saw was actually a video interview with the Happy Hood that was on YouTube, and I only watched the first minute or so. I didn't have time to get to the whole thing. He seemed quite, jolly, high spirited for him, but I think that might have to do with the fact that the guy interviewing him was from Northampton, which is his birthplace or hometown anyway. So
yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? Because I reckon he's probably a happy, normal, regular bloke who, still does some stuff, but not on the same level as like he used to. But the only time we ever hear any clips or any, quotes from him is when it's stuff like this. And the people asking him questions, they know that they're going to get a grumpy response if they start talking about the DC royalties and, artistic licenses and adaptions of his, of his work. Some derided, some liked, but not by Alan Moore, I guess. I just think, does he really have a say in where the royalties for the other guys go? Because it wasn't that long ago he was complaining that they weren't getting any royalties. So did he go through that process, get that all worked out just to fuck the artist that he worked with on the stuff? And he's really just distanced himself,
Yeah, I'd say the only interviews I've read with him before, he's always been very troll-like and very just, I mean, jovial, to be honest. I think maybe a news publication, and like you say, the topics that they're questioning him about, he probably doesn't have much time for or care for. So he's
no, not at all. And they're pushing buttons. They know what they're doing. Yeah. But Alan Moore, you've earned your right. Do what you do, I guess.
Yeah, he certainly has.
But also, be a troll, fuck the system, fight the system, shake it all up. But also, maybe, let your Dave Gibbonses and all your other artists that you work with. It's Sunday morning. I'm not pulling the names right now. Okay. He's had a long, illustrious career, worked with lots of people. I just hope that they are, in fact, getting their fair share of anything. Although maybe they sold out to the movie companies. They collaborated with the studios on the adaptions and he refused to. So maybe they made their money in other places, in other ways. So, maybe it all kind of evens out in the end. It's just, don't expect Watchmen 2 anytime soon, I guess.
Yeah.
In comic form, at least. A movie, don't put it past anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Alan Moore, everyone. Being Alan Moore, just mooring on. So talking about adaptions and creators of classic comic books, they are making another Hellboy, George. We've been hearing rumblings of this. I think we touched on it in a previous episode.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got a distribution deal, I believe, and it's not the greatest news if you're a big Hellboy fan. Really, it's what's the name of this studio? The studio behind critically panned movies such as Hypnotic, Superfast, and The Starving Games. If you know, these are all parodies of other movies. This is like an Asylum level studio, probably a little bit better than that, because you know they've had like Ben Affleck in some of their movies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the other movies were distributed by Sony and Lionsgate respectively. They didn't want nothing to do with this version of Hellboy. This is the third reboot of Hellboy. And they're quoted to say, "We are very excited by this latest acquisition, as this film holds a special place in the hearts of fans worldwide, and we are committed to preserving and building its legacy as we bring the film to fans and new audiences." Hold on a minute. This film does not hold a special place in the hearts of anyone because nobody's fucking seen it yet. Maybe the other ones do. But they're getting a little bit ahead of themselves. Well, I'm trying to find the name of this studio. Where is it? It should be at the top of this article, and it is not there. Ketchup Entertainment. There you go. If that doesn't tell you what you need to know. Ketchup Entertainment. Was you excited for Hellboy or another Hellboy? And are you more excited or less excited based on the acquiring by Ketchup Entertainment?
Is Ron Perlman attached?
No Ron Perlman, no David Harbour. It's a relatively unknown actor. Let's find his name here.
I didn't know news.
A guy called Jack Casey. Okay. I would say though, side note, it is being directed by Brian Taylor, who I quite like as a director. He's was part of the once duo of Neville Dean and Taylor, Brian Taylor and Chad Neville Dean. They made Crank, yes they did, and Crank 2. And then Brian Taylor went on to direct Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, which I would still claim is a highly underrated Marvel adaptation. I really like that movie. And visually, you know, they have flavor to them. You know, both these guys, you know, together and separately have got, you know, quite a distinctive style. I wouldn't say it was necessarily the right style for Hellboy, but at least it's a style, you know? Yeah. So are we going to be first in line for this, George? Are we going to wait for streaming? Is it even going to come out in theaters? What do you reckon?
Is it going to hit the theaters? That's the question. If it did, I'd probably check it out. Either way, I'll check it out. I'm interested. I mean, those Crank films are just insane.
Wild. So, yeah.
I'm here for it. Shame that, you know, old Ronnie couldn't
yeah, well, he was actually quoted not long ago, and he gets quoted saying this kind of every 6 months or so. But in fact, that might be when we talked about it last week, right? Or the week before, when he said that he wanted to come back, or he would be willing to come back and do the third one. But that's just getting further and further away, not only time-wise, but just, you know, kind of logistics-wise, because we're 2 reboots in at this point. It's getting kicked further and further down the gutter, you know, as far as like the level of talent. I don't want to say quality of talent, because, you know, you got good people who work on shit movies, and maybe this is the one where they maybe Ketchup Entertainment, maybe they're like, we see the merit in this, we see the benefit in us picking this up, and maybe this is the thing that takes Ketchup Entertainment to the next level. I don't know.
Who knows, man?
But I want it to be great. But this news kind of came out, and I'm just like, oh, damn. That's not. And there's still no release date announced. So maybe it does go straight to streaming. I don't know. But then maybe all these strikes, pay everyone what they want, is maybe that will lead the way for this. Maybe there'll be some open slots in theaters over the next 6 months, you know? So maybe some smaller movies that wouldn't have got a wider theatrical release, maybe they will because of this. You know, I don't want to say strikes are a good thing, but that could lead to some, you know, maybe people seeing some different kind of movies in the theaters in the interim while all this shit gets figured out, you know? So
yeah, if the strikes do lead to positive change, then, you know,
they did their job. Yeah, absolutely. But if they didn't, then I mean, I guess the strikes were still good, but it's the other people. Studios, you're bad. Sort your shit out. Right?
Sort it.
Absolutely fucking sort it out, mate. I'm tired of this shit. I don't want to keep doing this bit every week. I want to stop this bit. But you need to do your bit. Right? There we go. Right. Okay. So from movies that are getting smaller in budget, smaller in scope, and may or may not get a theatrical release, to movies that are ridiculously fucking overblownly massive and are definitely getting a theatrical release. Thank fuck you do not want this movie as a tax write-off. I'm talking about Aquaman 2 and The Lost Kingdom.
Oh, right.
So, yeah. So there's been a lot of wondering, I think, online. A lot of movies are getting pushed back because they want the actors and the writers and stuff to be able to promote this, primarily the actors as far as promotional stuff goes. And especially movies with like, you know, stacked like A-list cast. You want those people out on the fucking talk shows, you know, on the magazine, you know, article circuit. You want all the press junkets and everything. And people, you know, Dune got pushed back. I think Wonka got pushed back. All of this stuff's getting pushed back. So people wondering what's going to happen with Aquaman, you know. And it looks like, based on the fact that they dropped a trailer, that they're just going to steam ahead with this and they're just going to release this thing. And they dropped a trailer. George, did you see the first one? Did you watch this trailer?
No. Sorry.
Don't worry.
That's
fine. But again, where do you stand on this? You think it's a good idea to keep this movie in its December release date, or do you think they should push it and let the actors promote it, and will that make a difference?
I'm not sure. I mean, December seems like a right time for movie releases, but it's normally, you know, it's the Christmas period. Doesn't really matter too much. As far as I know, everyone loves Jason Momoa.
They do.
You know, I think he's all right.
He's all right. He's charismatic enough on screen. I haven't seen him really do anything that's like blow me away. I didn't watch Game of Thrones, but from what I gather, he's basically the same in that, but less smiling. So.
Oh yeah, far less. He's a dog
that's fun.
So they have their own language. He doesn't have a lot of dialogue in it. But yeah,
so so he's working his way up, you know, he's cracking jokes. He's got a kid in this trailer now, and we're kind of doing this whole comedy, you know, juxtaposition of him like doing baby stuff at home and then being a warrior king of an underwater kingdom. And how's he going to balance it? You know, is he going to miss parents' evening while he's out, you know, stabbing giant killer whales with, I mean, he's not probably killing the whales. He's stabbing the people that are trying to kill the whales, if I was having a guess. But whatever, he's out there, big sea action. This trailer is fucking huge, George. The first movie was huge. It, you know, both in terms of like effects and scope, but also it made over $1 billion, which is absolute insanity. I do think it's DC's most profitable movie, like of all time, maybe, which is crazy considering. I know, right? Considering like the optics of like Aquaman as a character in pop culture.
Yeah, you always used to get shit on, to be honest. Everyone was like,
I mean, what do you expect? You're under the water. That's where the shit goes, right? But so obviously that's why they cast Momoa, because you want to flip, you know, that perception of the character. Some people might say they were trying a little bit too hard to make him like this edgy kind of, you know, bearded dude bro or whatever. I think it's worked fine regardless of the quality of the movies. But there's a lot of money on the screen here. It looks pretty good, the effects, you know, and everything, underwater effects, touch and go.
Do you know what the budget was exactly?
I'm assuming it was huge because they started producing this long before the changeover at DC, long before all their other movies, you know, really started flopping hard, you know, with your Shazam 2 and your The Flash. And this is, you know, kind of lumped in with those because they all kind of stem from like the Zack Snyder version of the DC characters, right? And this is kind of the last movie left from that regime while before we change over into the new DC status quo with the new Superman movie that comes out in 2025. All right, so part of me thinks that they're just leaving this to come out in December. Like, we know it's going to bomb. There's no point having the actors promote it. Let's just get it out of the way. It'll make what it makes. And then let's just go into the new DC universe with a nice kind of cleanish slate. It's not going to be a clean slate because we're all going to remember this. So, you know, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see how this does. I'm intrigued to see if maybe it does get promoted. Maybe the strikes are long done by December, and maybe it'll all work out. And, you know, if all the other movies have kind of moved out of the way now, you know, maybe that paves the way for this to make a bit more money than it would have done anyway. Because I do think the first Aquaman making $1 billion was an absolute fluke. It came out right in, like, it was the peak of like the superhero movie boom. You know, this was like 2017 or 18. You're in Infinity War territory. You know, this is when generally they were all coming out being good, doing well. And I think, you know, Aquaman did kind of ride the wave a little bit there. So
nicely done.
You know, and the genre isn't in the same state as that now. It's far less there's some much rockier waters now. So you know, maybe it won't. Oh, they're going to keep coming, George. You know, I'm flowing. What can I say? You know,
like
so
an aqueduct.
Exactly. So maybe the circumstances will help it, but chances are it's probably going to be dead in the water. Last one.
Oh, it's good luck to James Wan and boys. Yeah, I only just
who, by the way, seems totally checked out. I don't know if you, you know, we've talked about James Wan a bit. You know, he's made his mark on the horror genre, and you know, he was so successful in that it granted him, you know, these crazy $200+ million budgets on a character like Aquaman. But he's had a couple of quotes and a couple of interviews lately that I've read. I don't have any of them pulled up ready, but he's just like, yeah, whatever, movie's coming out, you know. He just doesn't seem to care. I think this movie's probably been butchered in post-production to try and, because DC tend to do that, they kind of seem to like try and rework their movies based on the reaction to the last movie.
Yeah.
And you know, if you've got one movie that comes out that's like dark and it flops, and then the next movie's coming out and that's also dark, then they're like, no, quick, we've got to make it lighthearted. But the problem is, if that second movie, you know, works better as a dark movie, maybe that first movie was supposed to be lighthearted. You can't, just because one movie works one way doesn't mean it's going to work for the next one. You know, people complained that Batman v Superman was too dark. So what did they do? They lightened up the Suicide Squad. When if you're going to have a dark movie, that should be the fucking Suicide Squad. So, you know, and it still seems like they're kind of trapped in that, and all these strikes and regime changes is just kind of, you know, exacerbated the situation. So, rooting for you, bro. We'll see how we go. December, we're probably going to review that. I'm probably going to try and get George to watch the first one. It's a fun time. Wouldn't say it's a good time. Depends on what kind of state of mind you might be in at the time.
I'll get around to it. Yeah.
He'll get round to it. Aquaman review coming soon, everyone. 5 years later than every other YouTube channel, but who cares? We do things how we do things.
Yeah.
And okay, doing things in maybe unconventional ways. You know, we're just rolling. We're transitioning here. This is fun. We're going smooth. You haven't got anything to say about Aquaman, have you? You're done with Aquaman. Yeah, we're done. Cool. Right. So on the other end of the spectrum, there was a little movie a few years ago called Brightburn. actually produced by James Gunn, who now runs DC. And we talked a little bit last week about, like, you know, the dark, edgy versions of your favorite superheroes. And Brightburn got announced with a trailer. Nobody knew this was coming out, and it's like, it's a little kid and his evil Superman, and it's a horror movie. Go. And it kind of went under the radar, even though it did make $33 million off of a $6 million budget, which is pretty good. So it's like 5 times the budget there. Hence why it's getting a sequel. And some people have been wondering, are we going to get a Brightburn 2? You know, there's other stuff you could do. You could do other kid versions of other superheroes. You could follow the Brightburn kid as he travels through his journey. I won't ruin the end of the first movie, George, because you haven't seen this, right?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
I have just discovered it was on Netflix, so I'll probably...
It's pretty great. It's like just a really creepy sort of supernatural slasher movie, but it's a little boy Superman instead of, you know, just like a dude with a pumpkin mask or something. Really effective. Elizabeth Banks is in it. You know, got some great kills, some great tension, the effects and everything, the way it homages, you know, like Superman, specifically like the Snyder version, because it's got some, you know, some real striking similarities visually to that. What's interesting about Brightburn 2 is they announced this, but also they said, and I quote, the production company intends to incorporate new technology into the production process of projects it has in development, including a sequel to the horror movie Brightburn. It goes on to say that they are going to be using AI to produce this movie. They haven't said how, but this is rustling a lot of feathers. This is a hot topic right now. People are worried they're either going to take all our jobs or the robot overlords are just going to kill us all and start anew, right? But what they're saying is we're going to use this in a way to complement the creative process, right? So we're going to respect professionals and fans while promoting responsible technology integration. So a lot of people are saying this is a bad idea. This is exactly what we're worried about. You're taking away jobs from artists, writers, this, that, and the other. But I think this is actually quite a good move, because this is happening anyway, regardless of whether people do or don't do it. This is going to start happening. The jobs aren't going to go.
Happening.
It's already happening. So maybe it's a good idea for somebody to kind of get in front of it and do something with AI and show that, like, look, this can be used as a tool, as part of the process. It's not going to, you know, eradicate all the writers or the concept artists and stuff. And this is just, you know, I think this is the right size and type of movie, you know, because you could theoretically, just off the top of my head, you could feed every Superman story into an AI, and then you could tell it to give you a horror version of that. And you could, and it might come up, it might throw you some fun scenarios. Granted, that's what a writer would do. But then maybe they're using it for the visual, you know, for the visual storyboarding. You know, just throw some stuff in there, throw it some options, see what options it gives back to you, see what the writing team and the creatives want to, if they want to use it, how much of it do they want to use, if any. I don't know. Are you down for this, or you think this is the beginning of the end?
I don't know. It doesn't specify, right? Like where
they don't say how they're using it. They just say they want to, you know, complement and collaborate with the creative process. It's kind of just a general quote here that they're saying.
Well, all I know about AI is when it comes to like producing art, you have to train it off of existing art, which obviously is generally made by a human.
Ideally.
Yeah. I don't know. I've seen things that have been trained off my own artwork, and they come out pretty strange. But again, they probably weren't used with the most, the best technology. It was probably some sort of free
that's
AI
fair.
app, but I'm not sure. We've had jokes, and I think we jokingly tried to get AI to come up with some stories for us, or you and our friend Kiefer.
Yeah,
And
I've got some stuff.
some
I've
pretty
had
hilarious results.
Yeah, I had
But
ChatGPT knock me up like a blues song. I had it write me like a bedtime story about an orange.
yeah,
Don't ask why. These are just the things that happen when the cameras are not rolling. Okay. And who knows? Maybe I'll throw some of this stuff out there on the socials at some point if you're wondering, if you're curious,
segment.
who doesn't love an orange, you know?
Yeah.
But you don't love an orange?
Aren't you glad that AI
I'd be
is?
glad if you got some fucking vitamin C, George. That's what makes me glad. You got to look after
Yeah,
yourself, man.
yeah.
On a Sunday morning like this, vitamin C is your best friend. You know, give you energy, protect your immune system, and what we talk about again. Oh, bright burn. That's kind of it burns
Yeah,
bright like an orange.
that's
There you
right.
go. We made it relevant.
There you go. Yeah, again, I'm up for checking this out. As far as
Yeah.
the second one goes, all I've seen about it is that the director David Yarovesky,
Mm-hmm.
back as we like to know, has done some interesting music videos. One being the video for Corn Hater.
Ooh.
Is that the title? I've lost
Must
it.
be a newer song. I'm an old school
Yeah,
purist, mate. Freak on a leash or get the fuck out.
yeah, Life is Peachy, self-titled, all that. I don't know. They've
Good
done a lot of stuff
stuff.
in the last 15 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know more about how the AI is used in production.
Yeah, I'm wondering
But
if they'll expand upon how they've used it, and if will they even be clear about after the movie comes out, like, okay, this was that and that was this, because I think that would be really interesting. And if they're trying to do this as a kind of almost like a trust building exercise between like creatives and AI, maybe it would be good to have some transparency about that. But then on the flip side, maybe if the movie's really good and then they come out and say, oh yeah, we fed some ideas into the AI and it gave us like the basic story outline, then you're completely undermining the writer. Then it's like, this movie's really good, but oh no, it wasn't you that wrote it, it was the AI, so fuck
that
you.
does crazy. I could see it being beneficial, like to spark some ideas, but when it comes down to it, I don't know how much it is going to affect writers and artists. I think you're always going to need that human element
Yeah.
in
And
there.
yeah, and being the optimist, I'm hoping that this film is going to try and show that, and it's gonna have them in harmony. But being cynical, I think like, well, maybe, because the budget's so small, they don't want to pay any writers, they don't want to pay anyone, because apparently nobody wants to pay anyone. So maybe they're just like, fuck it, Brightburn 2, evil Superman kid, give it to an AI, we could knock that up. That'll be easy. It could be that. I guess we're not ever going to really know the full extent, but I hope that they they kind of take the good road here and kind of clarify a little bit about how and where it was used, because I think some honest consumerism would be refreshing, wouldn't it, George?
Oh, sure.
Sure
would.
It would be
Like a nice orange.
like a nice orange. We brought it all back. You thought it was nonsense and we made it make sense. That's what we do here on this show. Click the likes, click the subscribes, go and eat an orange, do all of that stuff, right?
Thank us later.
And if you want refreshing, wouldn't it have been really refreshing? Because you see us here on the screen, you know, he's in a box, I'm in a box. I mean, we're all really in boxes, aren't we, at the end of the day? Don't want to get heavy for you. But sometimes we do interact in the same space, don't we, George? And it doesn't always go well, but we do try and connect from time to time.
Yeah. Instead of being in a box on a screen, we were in a box with wheels. I went in a box with wheels. 98 miles. North.
98 miles. 98 miles north. Yeah. He come. I mean, don't dox me too hard, but he did come and visit everyone. You know, I don't want all these fangirls from the show like knocking on my door asking for oranges. Like, you know, you can get on these oranges. You know what I mean? Anyway, this is getting way out of hand today. Far crazier than we have any right to be on a Sunday morning. But back to the point, we thought, what better way to celebrate, which was this week, International Batman Day. So we thought, we're going to meet up, we're going to do one of our little rendezvouses. And we went and saw a lovely little screening of Batman 89.
We did indeed.
We're going to lay it out. We thought this would be really good. We're going to try some different stuff here for the show. You know, it'd be cool to see us together. It'd be cool to like get some more editing and, you know, just slowly expand our repertoire. It did not go well. Okay. We had 2 attempts at this bitch, and we have some video, but mostly audio. But if you're interested, we are going to go over to us in one box for our thoughts on Batman 89. Over to you, Uz. Well, thank you, Uz.
Hey.
Yeah, that's right. We're occupying the same physical plane of existence. Don't get used to it. We're going to try and do some more stuff like this, but we'll see how this one goes. So far, the jury's out. All right. We just got out of a screening of Batman 1989. Now, I grew up with this movie. Had it on VHS ever since I can remember having memories. So I've seen this a lot, and I was kind of worried that seeing it on the big screen might tarnish my memory or my fondness of this movie. So before we get to that, what's your experience with this thing?
Well, I had the pleasure of seeing this one fine Christmas evening. Yeah, I'd say. I seem to remember being quite ill, projectile vomiting turkey and far too much pink lemonade. And the family decided to just, you know, chuck me in the other room, plump me on the sofa while Batman was just starting. And
this should cheer you up.
That'll cheer a 5-year-old up.
Watch this one mentally disfigured man go to town on this physically disfigured man. Yeah. You know, with maybe some sociopathic stalker people thrown in for good measure.
Indeed.
But this is a fun romp though, right? Like,
yeah,
you know, it's got that dark layer of darkness over it, but it is at its core basically the Adam West. Yeah. But that's not in a bad way, I don't think, at all.
No, definitely not. And yeah, I'd say people don't give it enough credit. Obviously, things got darker and darker as we went from, you know, obviously 89 through the 90s. Well, I'd say that some of the 90s were pretty camp.
Yeah, we got camper later on in the 90s, but then we got darker again. You know, we overcompensated, some might say, with the darkness in some of the more recent instalments of this property. But yeah, no, I think this was dark at the time. People weren't going into this like laughing, except for maybe the Joker, who admittedly holds up as very entertaining, very charismatic, and very funny, as can be attested by some of the our fellow cinema goers in the cinema.
This fucking child sat behind us. The first scene you get of fucking Jack Nicholson, Jack Napier, Joker.
She changed like he did, if anything.
I wasn't sure if it was a girl or a boy. The laughter was rather high pitched, but I think it was actually a little boy. Only because
maniacal.
I see the kid get taken out to the toilet, and then they come back, and then yeah, as soon as that dancing, shooting scene happens, that kid was beyond maniacal with that laughter.
Loving it.
It was ridiculous.
And I'd like to think that they're young enough that it wasn't like an ironic laughter. I think they were genuinely into it. They're like, this guy is fucking wild to watch. What is he doing? You know, when everyone else is like all dour and wearing black or like 1940s, you know, diagonal hats and bow ties or whatever, you know, in those smoky reporters' rooms.
The Dick Tracy attire.
The Dick Tracy looking stuff. And then to counteract that, you've got to have the best maniacal man there is, Jack Nicholson. But
shooting up the scenery.
Yeah. Who else is performing? So, Michael Keaton, I mean, this is Batman. He's not going to be, you know, a guy who does this isn't going to be like your strong-jawed, you know, typical action man kind of guy. He's a fucking freaky weirdo.
He is.
And Michael Keaton is very much a freaky weirdo. He's aloof, you know, he can be intense, and sometimes he's just really, like, you know, almost as maniacal as the Joker or the kid in the cinema, you know. But he's closer to Rob Schneider than he is Robert Pattinson.
Oh, definitely.
For sure. But it works and for the tone of this movie, you know. He plays it just straight enough. You know, he's got enough contemplativeness about him, and he plays off really well against, I don't want to say it, crazy stalker girlfriend Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale. One day, and she's
be stalking.
All up in his shit. Can we spend the next day together, Bruce? Will we stay for lunch? Oh, you got a business meeting? Oh, that's fine. You can move for me. Doesn't matter if it's $1 billion company. That's absolutely fine. Okay, I'm gonna follow you. I'm gonna put on my dark jacket and my hat and get my reporter's camera out, and I'm gonna come follow you to your parents, basically their grave.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
Bit intense.
Yeah. And on top of all of that, she lied about her weight. She says 108, which, assuming they're talking pounds, 108 is tiny, right? Like.
Yeah, I mean, I probably weigh like 160 or something.
So yeah, I believe him that she was lying. But I love that he has to factor in like those kinds of numbers into his gadgets. You know, not everything just works perfectly.
Oh no.
We don't even see the car in this. I mean, the car is iconic, right? And you kind of just take it for granted that he's just riding around in this bad boy all day, every day. But we don't even see the car for like halfway into this movie. I was quite surprised. No. I didn't pick up on that, really.
I totally forgot about the remote and the shield and, you know.
Yeah, he's got all this stuff. A little bomb that he uses. We'll mention that in a bit.
Yeah.
But, so aside from the performances, what else? The
visuals, the look of it. All, like I was saying, like the matte paintings are some of them are a bit more noticeable, obviously, watching it on a large screen.
But they're not overdone, I don't think.
No,
they use them just enough.
And yeah, I said I'd never really looked too far into the production of this film, but looking up immediately after, because I wanted to know where that, because the initial like establishing shots of Gotham City, it almost does look like it could have been like a dressed up another location, but obviously it was all shot on location at Pinewood Studios or to Wayne Manor, Nebworth.
To great effect as well. Like everything, it feels like a real city. You know, even though it's like populated with like kind of like over the top cartoony characters, it very much, you know, it's tactile. You can feel it, you can smell it, the smoke. You know, everything about it. The production design of like the interiors, like the manor, like you said, inside the apartment, you know, in like the penthouse office of the mob boss guy, Grosh or Greesh or whatever he is, Gresham, right, who always reminded me of like an evil Mel Brooks for some reason.
Is that Jack Palance?
It might be, yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Completely went away from my mind for some reason, but yeah, his office in the penthouse, you know, the museum, so much like
so much money and care and artistry was put into all the elements of this. You know, the makeup with the Joker is fantastic. Yeah. He's got different layers where he's wiping them on, putting them on, and all, which is a little bit unnecessary. But man, that's what they want to do, and they went in hard. Practical makeup effects, the crispy corpse. Never get tired of seeing a crispy corpse.
Glad you're dead.
Glad you're dead. The delivery on everything. There's a reason like Jack Nicholson got top billing and, you know, the biggest wage in this movie. You know, he's earning every penny that you know, every second that you see him on screen. You know, he's not earning money for anything anytime soon. He's Bruce Wayne in his combat strategy though. My God.
Bit lackluster.
I'm just gonna wait up on top of like a bridge or a water tower or something, and then I'm either going to jump past you or I'm just going to slam right into the floor, get knocked out, and then wait for you to get distracted, and then I'm going to jump up and kick you. And that's pretty much all he does until
he punches the shit out of Joker in that cathedral.
Here's the thing, because like, what is the point of that? Like, he's just a regular guy. He punches him in the face like 3 or 4 times. The dude's messed up. He's bleeding. Like, what's the end game of that plan? Because it can't have been, I'm just going to tie a thing around his leg and make him fall off the building and die. Like, what was his plan going into that situation?
God knows. But I mean, again, like,
I mean, he does say he's going to kill him.
He tells him, I'm going to kill you.
He explicitly says it. If you were having any doubts about Batman's intentions, like, oh, maybe it was just an accident, you know, just collateral damage. No, he says, I'm going to fucking kill that guy as soon as he finds out that he's killed his parents with his flashback, which might not even be real, by the way. I always thought of that flashback as symbolic, because it's a controversial kind of change to the Batman Joker lore. But I always took it as like Batman just envisions every guy that he's fighting, he just imagines that it's his parents, you know, because that's the driving force that has him doing that. I'm probably giving it too much credit.
Possibly.
But as soon as he comes to this conclusion, what does he do? He just rides that car in there, into that plant, just drops a bomb, and he just drives out, and he just murders everyone. Done. Yeah. And the score, which is great, has the tenacity to play this really heroic march theme over the top of it. And it's
Danny Elfman.
I was in tears when I was laughing.
Fucking jaunt of like.
And it's a great, uplifting, heroic theme, but my God, is it misplaced. He is just massacring. He's an arsonist and a mass murderer. Not even a serial killer. He's a mass murderer.
Yeah, blows the shit out of that fucking place.
He loves it. Little bombs. He's just bombs and guns. Is all he's got over his car. That's it. I know.
But yeah, speaking of the score, the Prince jams still hold up, and just the fact that every time you get a Prince jam, you got Jack Nicholson and his goons.
Yeah.
Just having it, just loving it.
Absolutely. Because presumably before he becomes the Joker, they're all just a bunch of like hardened, middle-aged, down and out, life of crimers, murderers, sociopaths, rapists, the worst scum of the earth. But one day with this guy, and they're doing arts and crafts, they're dancing, you know, they're making little patches for their jackets, and they're having a great time. You know, they're integrating, communicating with the public. You know, the PR skills. If anything, the Joker is a Gotham City outreach program, and I think he's actually doing more good for the place than Batman, to be quite honest with you.
You should be right there. And yeah, let's not forget those awesome fucking, like you say, the PR, the adverts, his little news appearance, television appearance.
Oh, it's great. And they all look at him, and they're all different screens, and they look at him like on the next screen, like they can see him.
That's a pretty cool little visual gag.
It's a fun little visual thing that's not meant to be taken literally, but you can look at it like, yeah, that's pretty kitsch. That's funny, and I don't think it's supposed to be funny. Maybe it is. The Joker is funny, which we haven't really had from a lot of other versions of the Joker since. I think, to be honest, you can't top this. I know Heath Ledger or whatever, but like, that's a different kind of standard and a different kind of thing entirely. But if you want a funny Joker who's, you know, releasing gas into the air, this movie doesn't understand how gas works, by the way, because apparently you only choke on it once you see it, and then if you turn away from it, it doesn't affect you anymore.
Talk about reporters Knox's little face mask, which
he very progressive. He's got one of those in his car. Yeah. 30 years pre-Pandy, and he's got a mask in his car. He knew it was coming, and that guy's endearing. You've got to have a lovable goof in these movies, and this guy's one of the best. He's can't remember the actor's name, but he kind of become a little bit of like a minor cultural icon. I think he's quite beloved in the Batman fan community. I think I don't speak for everyone, you know, especially not on this holiest of days, National Batman or International Batman Day. Presumably, Batman Day. Maybe there are some countries out there that aren't celebrating Batman Day, but we are, and we got more stuff. We're going to talk about some other Batman stuff. Are we done for now talking about this particular Batman thing?
Oh yeah, let's roll into some comic.
Yeah, talk. We're going to go back to us in the studio. It's not a studio. In fact, they're separate rooms because we can only stand to be in the same vicinity for a very specific period of time. But we're going to go back to us, a bit more Batman, and have a good time. Us.
Back to you. Us.
Thanks, us. Was that long enough? That was long enough.
Oh, that was plenty long.
You'll do the magic. He'll do the magic. As you can see, we had a lot of fun. It was good, you know.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love Batman 89? It's a absolute cultural staple. Have you got any more thoughts on Batman 89 before we talk about some other Batman stuff?
Not really, no. I'd say, let's get into the books. I think we said just about all we did. About.
And we looked great while saying it, by the way.
We did just for about 36 seconds. Or less.
Yeah. Absolutely. It was great. It was really good. Yeah, you'll hear us, you'll see a little sneak peek of maybe more stuff to hopefully come more successfully in the future. You know, and we were running on a tight schedule, guys. We had to eat, we had to skate, you know, we got to do the things that men have got to do, right?
Yeah.
So after that, or before that, depending on how you want to view the timeline, it's going crazy here. Are we in the past or in the future? We also read some Batman. He read some Batman. I read some Batman. Different Batmans, different Batmen. So why don't you tell the people what you were getting into to celebrate your Batman Day? Because I know you love it every year. Your first one there at the Batchat. So,
if I'm totally honest, I didn't get to revisit the books that I do own, which are very few, and of very different tone. But I will just rattle off the books that I do own because there's so many. When you actually try to look up many Bat books, many different Batmen and different writers and artists.
It's the whole batch of Batmen.
Yeah. I have to, is a divisive figure in the world of pop culture and Batman in particular. But I have to say, watching Batman 89, that is one other note that I just see how many shots that were cribbed by the man Kevin Smith. Like him or not, he's definitely opened a lot of eyes, mine in particular, to the world of comics. It was upon hearing various episodes of his podcast, Batman on Batman, like years back when they first started.
Yeah, because now it's Fat Man Beyond, right? Because he's not fat anymore.
No, he's not.
Good stuff.
Listening to the podcast, hearing about Grant Morrison, and hearing him in person is a very interesting figure.
Yeah,
that got me interested, and I picked up Arkham Asylum, where a serious house on Serious Earth, and of course it's unlike many other graphic novels or comics. The artwork's all hand painted. It's very dark. It's not, obviously, the Dark Knight was before this. Am I correct?
Dark Knight was the movie
the
or the book. Dark
books.
Knight Returns, I want to say, is 87 or 88 off the top of my head. I might be wrong. You know what? I'm probably wrong. Correct me in the comments.
I feel, it was like mid-80s from what I saw. But I thoroughly enjoyed that. On the other side of the spectrum, Batman 66 meets Green Hornet.
Oh, nice. I've not read this. Kevin Smith wrote this, right?
Him and Ralph Garman, who's like Adam West's biggest fan. You wouldn't know him probably from much. He hosted Hollywood Babylon with Kevin Smith.
That's the one. Yeah, I knew he did a different show with Kevin.
But yeah, he's the man of 100 voices. He's done many voices for Family Guy. He's an impressionist. He does an amazing Adam West impression, but he's also like just a Adam West super fan. Fan of Batman 66.
Does he? Did he take over for Adam West as Adam West in Family Guy? Is that what he did, or did they stop using Adam West in Family Guy when Adam West died?
To be honest, I have no clue on that. We'll find out. I'll put a little note here.
We'll check that out. You know what? We're just posing rhetorical questions here.
Yeah, it's quite possible, but there's obviously a different topic. But he's, quite the wealth of knowledge, and it seems like an obvious choice for Kevin Smith to team up with.
Who nearly made a Green Hornet movie back in the early 2000s as well, right?
That's right.
I know he wrote a script, or at least a story treatment. I'm not sure if any of that stuff made it into the eventual Michel Gondry version, which I didn't think was horrible. But anyway.
Yeah. Going from there, obviously, the artwork from that is Ty Templeton, who apparently did a Batman Adventures and many other titles. Other than that, I've read some various standalones like Von Freeze, Batman Who Laughs, written by Scott Snyder.
Edgy stuff.
Yeah, very, very dark, very different take. But to be honest,
not your grandma's Batman for sure.
Oh, definitely not. But I sparked this conversation leading up to it, sparked more interested, and just trying to look up and find some other books to order, or get my eyes on. And there's just so much stuff. Like, I feel like you're far more informed when it comes to the books than I am.
To an extent. I mean, we kind of talked about this yesterday off air because we have lives, everyone. But I mean, with DC in general and Batman, there's just so many versions, so many takes, so many universes and realities that it can be very overwhelming. And there's a lot of bad stuff in there. There's a lot of just throwaway, trash. No disrespect to the talented artists and writers who probably worked on it, but some things are great, some things are not. It's just how the world works. But it also means that there's some pretty great stuff out there. Not all of it's in continuity, but again, if you're not into the continuity and you just want something outside of that, there's something for everyone. It's hard to find sometimes if you don't know what you're looking for and you're just trying to come in. I want to read some cool Batman stuff. How do I, work my way through all the garbage? How you do that is you listen to the Poproast podcast and we tell you which ones you watch, which ones you don't, and which fruit you should eat, right? So, anything else on the Batman Who Laughs or any of these other things you've been reading?
To be fair, if people were interested to check any of those out, I'd rate all of them. To be fair, I mean, Batman 66, of course, is a lot more comedic and campy in tone, but the artwork, Ty Templeton's artwork is just stunning. Really, it's really vivid.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on Batman 66. It has that style to it. It's campy and comedic. Obviously,
I do believe there's more to the Batman. There's like a standalone like Batman 66 series that you can pick up. There's also I think they did Batman 66 meets Wonder Woman 77 as well.
All right.
I mean, so that's fun.
Yeah, that run came out in like 2014, so I imagine they that springboarded quite a lot more. Again, like there's just so much to look up, and I didn't have as much time as I'd like to research. But Arkham Asylum, anything Grant Morrison's written,
absolutely,
definitely worth checking out.
Good place to start if you're unsure, and maybe it's just easier to go kind of into it via like a certain creator or whatever. Then you can't go wrong with your Scott Snyder, your Grant Morrison, and maybe one of the guys that I'm going to talk about. You might be able to go wrong, but there's still some good stuff.
Let's have your picks.
All right, so going off of Batman 66 and all of those stories, they actually did. I don't have this. I wasn't actually planning to talk about this, but you've just jogged my brain. But they did do a continuation of Batman 89 as a comic book.
Right.
I'm assuming it carries on after Batman Returns as well, but we didn't watch that, so it doesn't matter. It does. It's a great movie. But so yeah, you can go and search this up. It's just called Batman 89, and if you love that version of the character and you wanted to see how maybe Tim Burton would have handled a potential third movie, I do believe that they took a lot of like rough story ideas, because he did briefly develop a third movie before deciding that, fuck this shit. If you want a dark, gritty, gnarly movie, go and get Joel Schumacher and he'll put some primary colors in there and change it completely. That worked out fine. But anyway, so Batman 89, it continues after Batman Returns. It uses a lot of the stuff. There's it's primarily a story about the origin or the introduction of Robin and the Two-Face, as played by Billy D. Williams, as opposed to Tommy Lee Jones, who's in Batman Forever, which is supposed to be in the same continuity. So I guess at some point in that universe, Billy D. Williams just woke up and he was Tommy Lee Jones and nobody noticed. That's fine. But in this version, it's a Billy D. Williams. He's trying to crack down on crime in Gotham, as he should, as is his job, I guess. He's trying to like work his way up through the the corrupted like power ranks of Gotham City. Maybe he's going to be mayor, or he's going to kind of upgrade his station from just a district attorney. And it also has a different take on Robin. Some people might not know this, but originally Marlon Wayans was going to play Robin in those early Burton Batman movies. There was a whole sequence. There was a whole sequence in Batman 89 that was storyboarded, and they took it out where he was going to get the an origin of Robin. It was going to be Marlon Wayans, who was then going to be set up through Batman and Batman Returns, and then would become Robin in the third Batman. So he's depicted as this young black guy. He's like a mechanic or something. It's a complete separation from the traditional Robin origin, which we'll talk about a bit more in a second. And yeah, it's pretty fun. It's true to the tone. The art's, it's not the most mind-blowing art you've ever seen, but it does the job of setting that tone, and you can get immersed in it, and you can just feel like confidently like this is what that movie would have been like. I feel like it plays pretty well. I think it's like just like a 6 or 7 issue miniseries. It's nothing too heavy. Again, very much in the tone of those 2 Tim Burton movies, and it's just like a fun alternate, what if, what could have happened. And it's kind of a shame that we didn't get that version, to be honest. But go check it out, Batman 89. You can get it on, physical or digital, whatever. So if that's your vibe, do that. But if your vibe is, edgy, disgruntled, mean, fascist, psychopath Batman, then maybe Frank Miller's your guy. And maybe you want to read All-Star Batman and Robin, which is quite infamous in comic book circles as like, I want to say much maligned, but I feel like it's a much maligned depiction of Batman and Robin. I don't know this for sure, but I feel like most people who are like purists aren't really a fan of this. It's a much more traditional version of the origin of Robin. He's part of the traveling circus. His parents are murdered, and Batman takes him under his proverbial and literal wing. And that's great. It's really great. It covers all the bases of everything you'd want to see. Art by Jim Lee, who is just absolutely one of the goats of, not just Batman, but, comic books in general. And having him work with Frank Miller, this book is really something special to look at. You could literally read this book or follow the story of this book without any of the dialogue. And to be honest, I think a lot of Batman fans would have preferred it this way, because Batman is dropping dialogue that people do not want from Batman in this. He's smiling while he like breaks people's bones and jaws and, snaps their limbs and, puts people in critical condition. Every other page, he's saying lines like "eat glass, loser," as he puts your face through a window. He's basically Marv from Sin City, right? And he's dropping the R word. He calls Robin the R word, and I don't mean Robin, but like at least 2 or 3 times in this book. Other than that, he either calls him snot, which is, but if he's in a good mood, he calls him kid like twice, and that's about the level of fatherly love that you're going to get from this version of Batman, who, by the way, is apparently been watching Robin. Like, he said he's been keeping an eye on him. He said he has potential. And then he just so happens to be there the night that Robin's parents get murdered. It's a little bit sus. It's a little bit predatory. It's very predatory. But he's been watching this kid. He knew he had potential. And then his parents so happened to get murdered. And he just swoops straight in on the crime scene and just like, this kid doesn't even get to like deal with the police really. Because he knows the police are corrupt. So he just gets right in there, just straight up kidnaps this kid, and nobody ever sees him again. And he just treats him like utter crap until like we slowly see this kid like, be scared of Batman, like doesn't know what's going on. He uses some pretty harsh, just tactics of like negging and just really imprinting his own like twisted worldview onto this kid, who is like the only bright light of hope in this. Everyone is absolutely fucking horrible in this. The Justice League appear in this, or some of the Justice League, because this is kind of like seems to be quite early on in the careers of these superheroes. So the Justice League still don't really trust Batman, and then they see him kidnapping kids. They're like, well, we've got to get involved in this. Spoiler alert, the Justice League aren't much better. They're all bitter, jaded. Even Superman's got like anger issues, but also he's having like some weird like cantankerous like romance with Wonder Woman, who's just like this super cold, uptight, unpleasant bitch of a woman, as Frank Miller writes her. Frank Miller's got a thing with women. He loves women, but also he kind of hates women, I think. He takes the sexual subtext from, let's face it, all superhero stuff kind of has like weird power, sexual, subtextual stuff, right? But he just pushes that right up to the top. It works better as subtext. And if you're going to make everyone horrible, it kind of just takes away from, like, because I like this version of Batman. I think this is exactly what Batman would be like as a person. Like, he's bipolar. One minute he's like breaking your ribs, the next minute he's like laughing and joking and being nice, and the next minute he's just like crying because he's got all this suppressed like grief. He even says like he didn't grieve because grief leads to forgiveness, and forgiveness leads to complacency. So he just flat out says like, I just bottomed these emotions from my parents' death. I haven't dealt with any of this, and yet somehow I see myself as qualified to help this other kid deal with it.
Yeah, because untreated mental health issues
absolutely, and that's what Batman is. That's exactly what Batman is, right? But but not everyone, because when the Blue Beetle trailer come out and George Lopez called Batman a fascist, everyone kicked off. How dare you call Batman a fascist? That's your own character. That's your bread and butter. That's where your most popular character is. Like, how dare you call Batman a fascist? Let me tell you something. He's a fascist. Anyone who wants to go around imposing their own moral, beliefs and their own worldview on other people, regardless of whether or not they are criminals, it's still a rich man going around forcing his ideology onto poor people, and either get out the way or fall in line, or I'm going to put your face through a fucking window. So Batman is a horrible person, really. Just because he fights crime doesn't make him less horrible. So I don't mind that. My only issue is that kind of Frank Miller brings everyone down to that level, and it kind of lessens the impact of what that would, and you don't get so much of the light and shade of it all. Even Superman's a jerk, there's no hope for anyone. And Green Lantern, I think he hates even more than Superman. There's a scene in this with Green Lantern where Batman knows that Green Lantern's going to show up to like question him and bring him into the Justice League to like have the intervention, right? So what does he do? He gets his new kid helper here to paint the whole fucking room yellow because he knows that Green Lantern's weakness is the color yellow. So he gets Robin, he forces Robin, child labor law is out the window. He forces Robin to paint everything yellow. He even paints Batman yellow, and he just sits there like a smug prick waiting for Green Lantern to show up. And it is, I won't get into details of the scene, but Green Lantern does not come out of this situation very well at all, despite having a potentially world-ending weapon on his hand that can do anything. And Batman's just like, fuck you. And by the way, would you like a glass of lemonade? Just to rub it in extra. Like, literally, Green Lantern saying like, you're bringing doubt onto like superheroes, we're all going to get dragged in onto this. You can't be using these methods. And he's just sitting there like, glass of lemonade? Because obviously the lemonade is yellow as well. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's a fucking mind fuck. He will ruin you. He will neg you. Doesn't matter if you're just a 12-year-old boy or the most powerful man in the universe. This guy, no good. But also, he knows what he's doing, despite all the craziness. Anyway, I advise everyone to go and read this. I thought this was so fun, so entertaining. You had a little flick through.
Yeah, I had a look at the digital.
I don't know if that's enough to get you to want to go and read this, but
I'm definitely intrigued. The Jim Lee artwork looks stunning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. By the way, I mean, were there any other Batman books you
These were just the two that I was going to cover. I think
there's so much, man.
There's so much to. I mean, we couldn't. We've got lives, you know.
Yeah.
We can't. We got to skate. We've got to, you know, fix audio and video issues and work around all this other stuff. Deal with the curveballs of life. Okay, so we can't explore the 70 plus years of Batman mythology. But take our recommendations, or just go and read some comics, guys. Support your local comic book shop, or, you know, if you get something digital from one of the big conglomerate, you know, companies, that's fine. Just support the art form. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
There is. I do feel like I just got to give a shout out to Neil Adams. It'd be remiss if we didn't. From all the artists, that I've heard from, or, you know, in his interviews, if you want to listen to him talk about, well, it's just what he did for comic book artists in general.
And you want to talk about light and shade. That's a guy who brought so much, you know, dynamic and, you know, just layers to the Batman mythology, you know, both visually and, you know, like story wise and everything.
A lot as well.
Like that blue cape with the black shadows underneath, and the yellow and the grey is just the most beautiful version of Batman that we still haven't seen. Really, we haven't really had that version. I like long ears. I want long ears, everyone, like up to the fucking sky. Sorry, Frank Miller, I know you like the little diddy ones. I want big fucking demonic, you know, I want this thing to look like a creature of the night, like he is supposed to be. And Neil Adams just basically he defined this character just as much, if not more, than your Bob Kane and Bill Finger. Definitely more than Bob Kane, who basically just came up with the name.
We didn't actually get into the origins of the character, but you pretty much touched there. Bob Kane was a big
Bob Kane, as far as I know, he come up with the name, and I think maybe the name of Gotham City or something like literally just the bare basics of, like, what if there was a guy called Batman? In fact, if you want to have some fun, you can go and Google and you can look up Bob Kane's original sketch and design of Batman. It is not the Batman you know and love. It is not a character that would have endured. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I'll get a little.
Throw it up.
We'll chuck it up. Yeah.
It's all about not your grandma's Batman. This is not anyone's Batman. You know, he's wearing red spandex. He's got bat wings. He's got like golden blonde hair, and I think even just like a yellow circle, you know, is probably the only thing that he has in common, really, is the logo on the chest, and everything else. And, you know, then you got Bill Finger comes, and it's like, you know what, maybe this guy should wear black, maybe he should wear grey, maybe it should be more serious, you know, maybe there should be all these other cool characters and a car, and literally everything that anyone loves about Batman probably came from Bill Finger, or got introduced later on with like a Neil Adams, you know. I really quickly just want to say that if you like Frank Miller Batman, obviously Dark Knight Returns is like the seminal like Batman story. We don't need to talk about that. You've heard enough about Dark Knight Returns, probably. If you're watching this show, you've at least heard of it. But between Batman Year One and Dark Knight Returns, All-Star Batman, I think perfectly, like, that makes like a lovely little trilogy there. Maybe lovely is not the right word, because it's brutal stuff. But if you wanted like a full, like, encompassing like overview of like the Batman mythology, there you've got Year One, which is the origin. You've got All-Star Batman, which is like the Robin origin and some of the other like characters and the dynamics. And then you've got the Dark Knight Returns, which is, you know, grumpy old Batman in the future, you know, having his last night out on the town, as it were. So if you wanted to do that, that'd be great. And then throw in throwing the stuff George said, and you'll know more about Batman than even Bob Kane knows or did. So just wanted to get that out there.
Nice.
We got anything else on the Batman front?
I don't know, probably chat fucking hours about it. Again,
we could
very limited knowledge.
There's
just so much out there.
A lot of bats. They travel in. I want to say flocks. Is that the right term? A gaggle of bats. There you go. All right. So everyone go celebrate, even though it was last week. By the time you're watching this, go and get your Batman on, or any comics.
Yeah. If you want to let us know what your favorite Batman is,
comment what your favorite Batman is. Comment your favorite Aquaman joke. Tell us about Hellboy, fruit, veg, anything else you want to leave in the comments. All right. Get it all in there. Click the likes, click the subscribes. I'm wrapping up, George. Am I getting early, or are we wrapping up? We good to go?
Good. You gotta go to work.
We are good. I've got to work. Yeah, I do actually. This isn't my full-time endeavor, unfortunately. But Daddy G's given me permission to wrap up the show, so that's what we're gonna do. So buttons, bells, subscribes, likes, socials, Poproast Podcast, pretty much all the socials that matter. You'll get us there. Follow us. You'll know when the episodes are coming out. What the topics are going to be. You get some fun little pictures, that will give you a little chuckle for all the wrong reasons, I reckon. And yeah, help us build this thing out, and the quality will get better. You will get better. Your souls will be enriched, and we'll get richer. We won't, but do it anyway. See everyone next time.
Peace.
Fuck yeah.